Welcome to the Average Joe Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode 15. I'm sitting here with Giovanni Z. Figueroa Giuliani. Giovanni is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He started training BJJ and Muay Thai in 2010 under Vazquez and Juan Delgado out of Combat 360 in Puerto Rico. He currently trains in Austin, Texas at VOW BJJ under Ryan Villalobos. Actually starts for Valley of the Wolf. Giovanni has a bachelor's in exercise science and health promotion and a doctorate in physical therapy and specializes in strength and conditioning, injury reduction, and rehab for combat athletes. He has a special interest in how the balance between training and recovery optimizes performance and longevity in the sport. Thank you for being here with me today, Giovanni. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Yeah,
and being on the podcast. Awesome. So tell us about yourself and how'd you get started in martial arts and physical therapy work?
Yeah. I basically started martial arts at a very young age. Did traditional martial arts. Wasn't really for me. I got bored with it really quickly. So I jumped over to, I started searching for something more. I started doing a little bit of Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu in Puerto Rico. Actually started more with the Muay Thai. And then as I started doing more and more jiu-jitsu, they were like, "Oh, you're good at this. Come on, just do it more. Less injuries, you can compete more." So decided to do more of that as well. And just jump between both of them for a while. Had some injuries here and there. So didn't really know how to work with them correctly. So towards maybe 6 years into jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, I had to slow things down a little bit. Okay. That's when my interest in physical therapy sort of started coming more into play. I started studying physical therapy, my doctorate in physical therapy, and learned a lot more about injuries, about rehab and all those things. And then I moved over here to Texas where I'm at right now. And because of that move, continuing to study and work, and then COVID, I had to stop training for a bit. And now I've slowly started back up now that things are opening back up. But that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, COVID smashed me too. I took the whole year off from training for a year. I've been training now for a while again. I don't know, what is it? It's October. So probably a good 6 months again, or more. But about since April. But yeah, I took the whole year off and it was rough. It was really rough. Not being able to do jiu-jitsu for that long, but I get that. So you did Muay Thai for 6 years, you said?
I did both of them really for
together.
About, yeah, I did it consistently from 2010 to it was more than that, actually, 2010 to 2017. Then in 2015, 16 was when I started my DPT. About that time was when I started having to slow down because of shoulder injuries and back injuries and stuff like that. And
did you? I'm sorry. What do you think was the primary factor or driving force behind those two injuries?
Some of the stuff that we talked about before, really, I wasn't respecting the intensity that I was going at, and the recovery that I needed in order to continue to perform.
Okay.
I thought I could go full throttle in the gym, thought I could go full throttle on the mats and sleep 3 hours and, eat chocolate and ice cream and pizza. And that was enough,
Right. It's just calories. I just need calories.
Yeah. Calories in, calories out, and that's fine. And I think those were the huge driving factors, among other stuff. Pain is very complex.
Yeah. I know. Pain sucks. I actually, this morning I was training. I was just drilling guard breaks, and my knee popped again, my right knee. So I have this knee that it's like I don't know if you have this, you might have some kind of thing that's just chronic, but like my right knee, if the knee compresses too far or there's certain pressure, it pops, my knee pops, and it's all right now. It doesn't really hurt anymore. And it just hurt for a little bit, but I just took it easy for the rest of the class and I still trained, but I'm okay now. But it just seems like a reoccurring chronic type thing in my knee, and it drives me nuts. But
so it's painful when it pops it?
Just for a second.
Just for a second?
It's just for a second. And then after that, it's like, it might be a little tight sometimes, and then it goes away after a little while and it's the end of it. But
does it ever get stuck or anything like that?
No, never got stuck. No.
Okay.
I have a friend who had that problem. He ended up getting
Yeah,
a surgery. Yeah, he was.
yeah.
Yeah, he got screwed up from that. Actually, we were both. Shit, we were going for purple belts. We were both blue belts. We'd come up together, and we knew that that the I think it was purple belt, but yeah, but we knew that the our test was coming up and we were preparing for it, and he was having a lot of knee injury or a lot of issues with his knee, but he kept pushing off because he knew that belt test was coming. So he waited, and we got the belts, and then he immediately went to his doctor and scheduled the surgery and got the surgery done. And then he was a beast about the therapy, and he was back on the mats in I think 2 months, or maybe less.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's still doing it. I mean, he's had some other injuries now since then, but he just does the therapy and gets back out there. And he's my age too. He's an older guy.
Do you recall what type of surgery he had? Or
I want to say meniscus.
Yeah, it sounds like if he was back on the mats in a couple of months, it sounds like maybe a meniscectomy. So they cut off a piece of that meniscus.
Right.
Yeah.
That's sort of I think that's what I don't know exactly. I don't know what he decided on, but Nicky Ryan, when he messed up his knee a couple months ago, I think he was talking about having it just removed, like having the tendon taken out. Do you ever heard anything?
I haven't heard. I need to check. I know I know Ethan got a knee surgery as well. But actually I think Nicky Ryan was in VOW a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, was he?
Doing some leg locks, but I wasn't there that day. I was like, really, the day that I missed? Timing.
Because we were talking, everybody, I mean, the listeners don't know, but we've been talking offline for a while. And actually Giovanni lived in Puerto Rico for a while and trained at the gym where the DDS was training at, but not at the same time. He was there before. They were there about a year and a half before. And then now he lives in Austin. So I was like, well, if you had a chance to go over there and train with them, and I don't know, are you going to? You're going to try?
I might try because actually a few of them do go to VOW sometimes. I guess since they're setting things up still. Right. So I think for the B team, you have to apply and stuff like that, apparently.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too. You have to apply. Yeah, they were in like a little strip mall.
Yeah. But the thing is that the school that I trained in Puerto Rico, I've been there since 2010. I'm really good friends with the owner. He's a super good guy, Juan Delgado. He's just one of the nicest guys in the world. And when they went to Puerto Rico, that they were having problems finding a building, because finding a building in Puerto Rico is a pain in the ass. It's horrible. People hooked them up with Juan so they could train somewhere. Right. And he opened his doors to them. This is when the COVID restrictions in Puerto Rico are still very strict, apparently.
Really? Okay.
And but he was able to work things, I don't know exactly what, but to help them out. You know how some people do.
Yeah.
But and they all became, pretty close, pretty good friends. And my brother's a professional photographer, and he took pictures of Ethan. Nice. And stuff like that. And they also train together here and there, apparently. I don't know. But he told my brother, like, hey, if you ever come to Texas to visit your brother, to visit me, just let me know. You can train him with the B team with us over here. I was like, really? He's inviting you? That's not fair. I want to go there. Yeah. My brother's like, no, you can't go. You're not allowed. I'm like, really? Yeah. So
that's messed up, man.
Yeah.
Oh shit. No, that's what I've heard. You have to apply to get in and so forth. But yeah, that would be, I mean, I envy you for having the opportunity that you might be able to, get in there and get a little training in with one of those two groups.
I'm gonna buy a ticket for my brother, have him come over here and just piggyback off of his and going over there.
There you go. Just walk in behind him. Just walk in. Yeah. See, I'm his interpreter, right? He doesn't speak English.
The thing is, we're 7 years apart. He's 7 years older than me. But we look like, people think we're twins all the time. Like, we look a lot alike. So I could just pretend I'm him or something.
Just take his driver's license when he's sleeping.
Yeah.
And just go in there to say you're him. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. So I digress. I kicked us totally off subject, but so do you still do Muay Thai or just do Jiu-Jitsu?
I do Muay Thai now in VOW as well. They started a class there recently, and I'm doing it a little bit, but more than anything, I want to get back consistently into Jiu-Jitsu, compete in Jiu-Jitsu again. I feel like, sadly, my prime years, I spent them out of jiu-jitsu and
Mhm.
rehabbing injuries and not knowing what the hell I was doing. So I want to go back in there and do a little bit more of that with the knowledge that I've gained from all the studies and, doing all that. So yeah, that's
Awesome. I
the
mean,
plan
if you
there.
don't mind, how old are you? If you don't mind me
I'm
asking.
35. So
You're young.
I know. I mean, but you know how they say,
I know, but you're young. You're
That's
still.
why I wanna honestly, if I compete, when I compete again, if I compete in IBJJF,
Mhm.
I want to compete in adult. I also want to compete
Yeah.
in masters, but I want to do
Mhm.
both.
No, you're
Yeah.
still at the right age to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're only 5 years into masters, so
Yeah.
I'm 50, so I'm like my last year of master 4, and I'll tell you, before the pandemic, like I competed a lot during white and blue belt, and then I got purple belt, and then it got to the point where it's like I couldn't even get a bracket. It was like there just aren't that many. I guess there aren't that many 50-year-old purple belts who want to compete right now,
Mhm.
or back then. And so it was really, the first year was pretty difficult just trying to compete. I just really didn't compete very much. I didn't compete at all, actually. I just went and helped coach at tournaments and stuff with my team that I was with at the time. And then right before the pandemic hit, the actual shutdowns, I actually was scheduled to be, and I still paid for it. They sold my money, but I was going to do a Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament here in Santa Clara, where I actually had a bracket. And I was like, oh, cool. I actually got a bracket. I'm going to do this. And then it got shut down because of the pandemic, and there's been nothing since. So I'm basically at the point now but even with the pandemic, I'm still not totally comfortable about competing right now, being in a room with that many people.
Yeah.
So I might wait a little bit and then go back. But if I have to, I might have to just go down in age. I mean, it's just all there is to it. Or, if you want to get enough matches to make it worth your money, I mean, I don't want to pay $150 and have one match. It sucks. I've
Yeah.
done that way too many times. I just don't like doing that. It's almost like I always thought, like, well, crap, I could spend $25, go to open mat at a gym I don't train at, train with a whole bunch of people that I don't know.
Mhm.
And it's almost like a tournament. It's like the same kind of thing, the same kind of nerves. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they're going to do to you. So I've been more along the lines lately of doing that. But I do want to compete again. I really do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but like, I remember when I was a white and blue belt, watching the other white and blue belts compete, it was always like real savage. It was just like, it was out for blood, right? But then you watch the purple belts and it was like mellow compared to that.
Yeah.
It was like, I was like, I want to compete with those guys because those guys are pretty mellow and they're just trying to use technique and it looks like jujitsu and it's cool. And, so I'm actually looking forward to being able to do that one day, hopefully,
Yeah.
but, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, and I think jujitsu, sometimes my thoughts is that we have too many brackets or
Mhm.
too many like master 1, master 2, master
Right.
3.
Yeah.
And I get it. And at the same time, it's like, I wish they had a little bit less for that reason, because you're not the first person that I've heard
Mhm.
state that they have that problem. Even at
Right.
brown belt and black belt, I have friends that compete at
Yeah.
brown belt and black belt, and they have the same issue. And they're like,
Mhm.
I'm paying, like, from Puerto Rico,
Mhm.
I'm paying $600-700 for a ticket, plus
Mhm.
hotel,
Mhm.
plus the actual competition to
Mhm.
fight with one guy or maybe two
Right.
guys. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. It
um,
sucks. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
I had
especially if you go to, well, like if you go to, and like I've never gone, but you've ever been to Worlds?
that's what I was gonna. I have a few
Yeah.
friends that have gone to the world. One that a guy that I was helping train cut
Uh-huh.
weight for the worlds. He he did the worlds. When was the world's masters?
It was just,
No,
no, it hasn't
no, wait,
happened.
wait,
Yes,
wait.
it's in
No,
November.
there
It's
was
in,
what was the one that just happened?
that was
In
Worlds.
September.
That was Worlds.
That was just regular worlds.
Yeah, because
So he
the
went.
Masters in November.
Yeah, so he went to that one, and again, he went to one of those. I can't remember, but he was going to compete in that, and he's going to compete now in November.
Mm-hmm.
But when he went, he's like, yeah, I fought against two people, and he's a black belt, and he's like, I
Mm-hmm.
paid money. It was in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
I paid money. I did all these things, blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, and it's like I fought against two people or whatever. And he actually
Yeah.
fought against just one person because he got injured after the first fight. It was like, ah, man.
See, and that's the thing is, like, or you have like these brackets where it's like you lose your first match, you're instantly eliminated, and you spend all that money doing it. It's just, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, but November is going to be Masters World. I have a friend of mine who's actually the same guy I was telling you about, to me. He's going to compete in Master Worlds
That's cool.
in November. Yeah, so that should be pretty good.
Yeah, it's the one in Vegas right now in November.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It used to always be in August, and now I guess they moved it because probably COVID related or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so everything's COVID related now, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
so
The world is dominated by COVID.
It is. It is. If you think about it, it is.
Everything. Yep.
It
Everything.
controls everything right now. It really
Yeah.
does. It really does.
Kind of
So
scary. Yeah.
it does. It is scary. I mean, I'm not as nearly as scared of it as I used to be.
Mhm.
I mean, and like I've said this before on this podcast, so I don't mind saying it again. I'm a freaking hypochondriac, or at least have hypochondriac tendencies. And so when this whole thing started, can you imagine being a hypochondriac in a pandemic? It's not pretty. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. So, it's like there was a while before, the vaccination started and everything where I was just like, I was I know it was hard to live with. My family was hard. I was hard to live with, but now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I got vaccinated and I've done all that and hopefully those things work, but I've just gotten on with life. I've just sort of like, I try to be safe, but not be crazy about it,
Yeah. At first I was worried, but I was working the entire time throughout COVID in a clinic. In a clinic and in a hospital. I was working with post-COVID patients.
Yeah.
I was working until August of 2020 June of 2020 without a mask in the clinic. They weren't doing temperature checks, nothing.
Really?
We were working with the patients right there.
Wow.
I remember there was this one patient that came to me. I worked with her. She was coughing a little bit. She's like, "Oh, I just have allergies or whatever." She's like coughing right in my face. Okay. Then that was on a Monday. Her next appointment was on a Wednesday. She called and canceled the appointment because she said that her partner came out positive with COVID, so she had to get tested. And I was like, really? Nothing. Nice. I came out negative, but still, like really, like.
Yeah, I had a couple close calls too. I had my oldest daughter is 17, and one of her friends spent the night. It was like in 2020. It was in like probably October. I can't remember the exact month, but it's probably around October of 2020. She spent the night, and they were working. They used to work together, and they went to work the next day. And then their friend went home sick, not feeling well, having a stomach ache, blah 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 blah. She goes and gets tested. She comes back positive. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I'm getting so crazy, right? So then my daughter had to quarantine for 5 days in a room by herself and go get tested. She was negative, so we were okay. But it's just stuff like that, yeah, where you're like, you don't know, and it's crazy.
It's
but
just doing what you can.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're sort of at the tail end of this, and it'll just maybe another year, and hopefully it'll be gone, or at least more manageable and controllable, and we'll go from there and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's just a learning thing, like everything else. So one of the things you and I wanted to talk about was recovery tracking.
Yeah, yes. I know.
This is how our friendship started. This is the topic.
Yeah, I asked you about that. You're like, what exactly you mean by that?
Yeah, because recovery is important to me. I'm old now, and it's like that's what I feel like gets me the most is like just the ability to like go train for real, 4 days a week or whatever, and then try to get some strength conditioning in, plus have my regular job and my family and everything else goes along in life and all the different stressors. I mean, like you've said, everything is a stress. Your body doesn't know the difference, right? It doesn't know whether between training or just job related stuff or whatever, everything stresses you out, or is a stress in your body. So I was hoping you could share, what you think is important as far as recovery tracking and how to optimize recovery and know when to do it.
Yeah. I mean, well, it all comes down to stress. Stress is stress for the body, like you said. And your body uses the same energy sources to manage all type of stresses, whether it's mental, emotional, social, or the physical stress that you put on your body. So we have to always remember that, sometimes we have a hard day at work. So we want to go like a very stressful day at work. So we want to go and hit the gym really hard because we're frustrated because we had a bad day at work or something like that. And even though we feel tired, stressed out, all that stuff, maybe our recovery isn't the best. We still want to go super hard because we just want to feel that.
Right.
And not saying that we shouldn't do that, but we have to take into consideration that little factor that stress is stress. And like the last time I injured my back really bad, or not really, but fairly bad, was because I had a day like that. I had a day like that. It was just a shitty day at work. And just, I went into the gym. My stomach was a little bit off because I wasn't eating properly that day. And I decided to still do deadlifts. And I was warming up still. It wasn't even my working set. I was warming up. My stomach was off. I put the belt on and I was like, I'm just not feeling right. And I was like, no, I'm still going to do this. And I went, I did, it was 6 it was six reps. I don't remember how heavy it was. I think it was 365, something like that.
All right.
And at rep number 5, I was doing good. I felt a little bit tightness in my back. I went for rep number 6 and pop, in my back. I just felt that loud pop, and my mind automatically went into, into fear mode. I was like, oh shit, why did I do this?
Right.
And then I calmed down, and I did the stuff that I knew that I should do. And, it was a recovery period of a few months of me working on it. I tweaked my back, but that's what happens sometimes. That's why it's important, even though we want to train as hard as we can all the time, to recognize that we also need to recover hard as well.
Right.
And the two big things that people use for tracking recovery are resting heart rate and heart rate variability, HRV. Basically, your resting heart rate is your heart rate at rest, without any activity. And your heart rate variability is basically the variability between beats of your heart. We think that maybe beats of the heart are like a metronome where it just goes consistent, but it actually varies. It varies a little bit. And there's technology right now that helps measure this very sensitive measurement of HRV. And you've probably seen it like Morpheus, Whoop, the Fitbit does it as well, different things like that. And it's not so much about measuring it, and if the numbers come out bad, then I can't train. It's not necessarily that. It's just, again, bringing a little bit of extra awareness as to where you're at, and if you might need to modify one or two things in your training load or volume based on what you're seeing, or if you can continue doing what you're doing, but be mindful of the fact that you might not be in a state that is optimal for that training at that point in time. For example, if you have a high HRV, a high HRV can be anything over 70 beats, right? Then that high HRV is an indicator that you're more in a parasympathetic state. So you're more in a recovery or anabolic state where your body's going through this recovery period. If you are in a lower HRV, then it might be an indicator you're more in a catabolic state or in a sympathetic state where your body is more focused on stress management, fight or flight.
Okay.
So for example, if I wake up in the morning, measure my HRV, and it gives me a low number, and it indicates that I am in a more of a stress management catabolic state, and I'm going to go train a heavy single today on squats or whatever, then it might be that it's just that not that I can't do it, but it's just, I have to realize then it's going to take me even longer to recover from that.
Right.
Than if I was at a higher HRV or a higher, a higher number there in that HRV. So that's the key with that. It's just knowing how to read those numbers and what they can mean and how you can modify your training if need be based on that. I know I gave you a lot there, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. So let's go back to that squat example. So you were saying, if it comes out high, that means you're under more stress. You're supposed to do a 1 rep max or whatever that day. So does that mean you either expect less of your actual numbers, or maybe you just say, I'm just going to do something different that's less intense?
Well, so there's a baseline number, right? And you have like a baseline HRV number that you get through, and you're going to get that over testing your HRV every day for the next, let's say, 2 weeks or so. And that gives you a good graph that you can look at. If it's a little bit under that number, then okay, maybe you don't have to modify a lot. You just have to recognize that you might take a little bit more time to recover later on,
Right.
But for example, let's give you some actual numbers. If I'm at an 80 HRV on my baseline usually, and then all of a sudden one day I'm at a 40, like what happened to me today. Today I'm at a 40, which is a huge drop in HRV. I honestly think it took the numbers wrong. My thing. I didn't do much.
That's a huge drop.
Yeah. So I was like, but I took today as a recovery day, you know, luckily it was a recovery day anyways, but I just was more mindful of that. But for example, if that happens on a max training day that I'm working at, right? Then if it drops from an 80 to a 40, at that point, I might consider avoiding that heavy load that day and switching things around and maybe doing more of a recovery type of workout, a little bit more aerobic mobility. If it's such a huge drop, especially if you're a higher level athlete or a athlete that performs, that trains a lot, like what happens in jiu-jitsu, we usually train 4, 5, 6 times a week, plus the strength training, like you said. It might be good to do that because these lower HRV numbers do correlate a little bit with, in some studies, with increased risk of injuries. So it's just something to consider, you know. Again, it's a guide. It's not necessarily that I have to stop if I am like this way, if there's a little bit of variability in that number of that baseline. But if it's a huge variability, yeah, at that point I would tell a person, just switch it up. It's not worth it for that day. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've never tracked numbers before, but I will go off of how I feel. I try to get 2 or 3 days of strength conditioning in on a, you know, 3 days a week would be awesome. I mean, that'd be like exceptional. But I try to get like 2, sometimes it's only 1, just depends on how I feel. But I've had days where I'll go in, I'm supposed to squat or deadlift or whatever, and I'm just not feeling it at all. It's like I'm not in the mood. I don't want to be there. I'm like totally like looking for every excuse in the world not to do this. And sometimes I'll listen and I'll like do a couple like warm-ups and they feel really shitty and heavy. I'll just say, you know what, I'm not doing it today. And I'll stop and I'll come back the next day and have a great workout. So I guess I've done that to a degree at some point. I just never tracked it. So I'm really interested in tracking it to see how that works. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, like, for example, with your RPE, like if you're lifting 300 in deadlift or something like that, and it's normally like an RP, I don't know, an RP 6, but today for whatever reason it feels like an RP 8 or 9. It goes up by 2-3 points. Like you said, that's a good indicator. Today I might be a little bit off, you know.
Right.
We can't always base it on how we feel, because I'm sure you've had days too where you feel like crap and you go in and you hit a new PR or something.
Yeah,
like
that. I had a great workout. So you're like, oh, I'm glad I did this. You know, I'd been pissed if I hadn't done this. Yeah, exactly. That's true. I was thinking about that too. Like, as you were saying, as I was saying that and you were responding, that, yeah, I've had days like that where you don't feel great.
That's why that warm up that you're talking about, like, hey, let me go through some warm up sets, see how I feel. And based on that, as you're acclimatizing, okay, I can adjust if need be, you know? But if you feel shitty at the beginning and then you start warming up and I'm feeling better, all right, let's go for it. But if you feel crappy, then hey, you have your option to adjust it. There's just another measure that you can see. The HRV really in the heart rate in reserve, or not the heart rate reserve, that's another one. The resting heart rate are 2 measures that you can see on a daily basis to sort of see where you're at on that day based on the overall, but also to see your overall fitness, how it's trending over the 30 days, 60 days. You can sort of see when you have enough data, you can sort of start seeing if you're going into a little bit of overtraining or something like that, you know. And then it gives you a little bit of a time to adjust. And for that, maybe I need to do a deload week. Maybe I need to adjust volume or intensity a little bit, you know, based on that. So it gives you that type of scope, broad view of what you can do too, which is kind of cool. It's sort of like, you know, weighing yourself every morning, you know how it is when you're bodybuilding and stuff like that. You weigh yourself in the morning with no food, completely naked. And it's basically the same rule for this. You do it in the morning, you know, before you eat, before you're in the exact same position. HRV is extremely sensitive. So you can't do it standing one day and then laying down the other day. Even if you lay down on your side and lay down face up, it can change your measurements, you know?
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's so sensitive with that. That's why there's some HRV trackers that give you your HRV for the entire day. And then like it's always tracking it. And then it gives you like an average score of the day. And that's BS, because it's like tracking your weight throughout the entire day. You know, it doesn't really work as well. It's just overkill. It's not necessary. But yeah, it gives you that overview for your training as far as recovery.
Which method do you use to track it? Or what do you prefer?
I use the Morpheus. I have it somewhere around here. I use the Morpheus
Okay.
from Joel Jameson.
Uh-huh.
So the Morpheus, I'll give you a quick review. I have
Okay.
my likes and my dislikes about it.
Okay.
I like that it's very straight to the point. This is what it does.
Uh-huh.
And that's also what I don't like about it,
Okay.
because it tracks your HRV and it gives you a recovery score on your phone and everything. But you have to attach it to other apps in order to see like some of your like your steps for the day, your calories burned and stuff like that. So it doesn't give you that all in one. But at the same time, it uses that information to track your recovery. So if you have like a Garmin or an Apple Watch or a Fitbit that you're using for those type of things, then you can connect it to the app and it takes that information and puts it all together.
Okay.
It's a lot more sensitive because of that, since it just focuses on that. So I combine it with my Garmin, and that's how I do it.
Okay.
But it's created by Joel Jameson. I don't know if you've ever heard him.
No, I haven't. I have now, but I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. So he was Demetrius Johnson, Mighty Mouse's strength and conditioning coach.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And he trained a whole bunch of other UFC guys too, but that's the main guy that everybody knows him for.
Okay.
And he created this specifically to work with MMA athletes.
Oh, nice.
A while back, before it was Bioforce, I believe it was called, and then he created the Morpheus system.
Okay.
The other one that there is that's really, really good is Whoop. But the problem with Whoop. And Whoop tracks everything together. Is very robust, and it even has wearable garments that you can use with jiu-jitsu. Like you can detach the actual thing and put it in the wearable garment, and it's very protected. So you can actually use it, so you can check your heart rate while you're training in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And you can train at different intensities and stuff like that. And it's easier to do that with the Whoop.
Okay.
But the Whoop, the thing that I don't like about it, it's you pay basically like $300 for the first year, or 300 and something. I don't remember what it is. And then after that, they send you the Whoop, but you're paying the $300 membership, and the Whoop is like added on. And then basically you have to, after that first year, I think you have to renew like monthly or yearly in order to be able to keep the Whoop for all the features of everything for their website and everything. So it's like, it's a weird system. It is. If you have the money, and if you're like a high level athlete, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But something like this or the Fitbit can do just as much in a lot of ways. And it is very useful as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's my thing. I mean, that's, even though with this whole majority of this podcast is really geared toward like average people like myself, and I'm not a professional athlete, I'm not spending that kind of money to track my heart rate. But it's the first one though, the Morpheus, that sounds like a pretty cool thing. I might check that out.
Yeah. And the Morpheus is like $140 and that's it,
Yeah.
And it is good, honestly. It is. And the guy does, he has a lot of information on the website about it all. And it's really good. It is.
Nice.
Cool. You had asked me about like what I think are the most important things for recovery. Yeah, definitely sleep.
Yes.
Sleep. And I mean, it goes down to the basics, right? Like sometimes we want like, wow, what's the big secret? And sadly, there isn't much, man. Like it's sleep, nutrition, and hydration are the big three, and managing your training load the best way you can, your stressors in life, not just training in the gym or on the mats, but stressors in life. Those big four things, if you can master those, it pays huge dividends, so you can recover good and then go back and train hard again.
So I mean, I try to get like 8 hours of sleep a night. That's my target. I don't always get it, but I do get that. And what do you do for a diet? What's your, like, what kind of diet do you follow? Or what do you recommend?
I tried a little bit of everything, right? I jumped around a bit. Right now, I really just try to keep it balanced, I don't want to complicate it, because I tried to do a little bit of intermittent fasting, some different things, and I did it for a bit, like most people did it for a bit, and then then I just, it fell apart for whatever reason. So definitely I just try to keep a balance, get my, my 50% more or less of carbs, my 20-30 of proteins, and my fats, my 20s fats as well. Nothing sexy, nothing super. Yeah. Just, I want to keep it as simple as possible, so I don't overcomplicate it in that way with any different diets, and just try to keep a good balance of the vegetables, the fruits. There's this, I don't know if you ever heard of intuitive dieting.
I have, but I'm not really familiar with it. I've heard the term, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's this thing, it's a little bit newer, but basically it's more of the idea of moving away from counting so much your calories and your macros, and just being more intuitive about it. Like, hey, a fistful of protein in each meal or something like that, and take a picture of it to see if you have everything. And they do more of that, to make it more natural. And I tend to, as I become more busy with work and family and all these things, I tend to go through that approach a little bit more, just on the general, when I'm in just general physical preparedness, fitness. If I do go into competition, or if some of the guys that I help out do go into competition, then okay, we're going to track our macros, we're going to track our calories to make sure that you're getting enough protein in and enough of everything in to meet your demands for what you're doing, because your training is going to go up. We need to make sure that that's on point.
Okay, yeah, because I'm doing, what would you call it? What's that term again for that type of eating?
The intuitive.
Intuitive.
No,
intuitive. So I basically have been doing intuitive and intermittent fasting for several years now, because that's, intuitive is basically how I eat. I guess I just never put a label on it. But I fast. I found the secret to fasting is just be busy as hell. So that it makes it easy. Like when you're just running around and I just lose track of time and I haven't eaten nothing. It's like 3 o'clock and I'm like, oh, I guess it's time to eat. So that's basically what I do. I mean, I try to eat decent food, and am I perfect? No. Do I go get a burger once in a while? Hell yeah. Like every week I'll go out and have a cheat meal on the weekends with my family. But for the most part, just a lot of fruits and vegetables, and and carbohydrates with a single word, and protein sources from an animal, and I'm good. And I like, and I've said this before out here, but I mean, I'll drink some IPAs. I like beer a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to like, totally restrict myself, but that's like my vice. They guess that and coffee. But those are my vices in life. But yeah, so when you're working with an athlete, like let's say getting ready for Masters Worlds or whatever, do you promote doing the like eating 3 hours a day? I mean, 3 times every 3 hours, like multiple times a day? Is that the type of deal?
It's going to depend on each individual. Like for example, you like your intermittent fasting, and that works for your lifestyle. I sit down and talk with whoever I'm working with, and I'm like, what has worked for you the best so far? And I talk to them, if for example, if they say I'm really injured, I don't eat a lot, and I barely sleep. Okay, then what you've been doing is not working. We can't
let's not do that. Yeah.
But what's best for them based on their schedule. Like I have one guy that he has 2 kids, a newborn, and he wants to sleep 7-8 hours a day, but you know how it is when you have a newborn, like you have to wake up in the middle of the night to feed them, and you have a whole bunch of other demands as well. So he does the best he can based on that, food wise as well.
Right.
So we've tailored it to what he can do based on his schedule. I'm not telling him you have to eat every 3 hours or something like that.
Right.
But it's just going to depend on the individual, really. I truly believe it depends on all these diets work. It just depends on what's going to work best for you.
Right.
The one I'm not a big fan of though is keto. Like keto for
I don't like keto either. I don't like it. I know people close to my life who've done it, and there were some negative repercussions from it, and I don't like it. I mean, it's like, I guess closest thing I ever got was paleo. I mean, that's how I dumped a bunch of weight using the paleo diet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what I still do. But I added some carbs back in. I added some rice back in and oatmeal. And I've heard that term just like paleo for athletes, but I'm like, I don't know if I really think that that's an accurate
Yeah. It's just,
name, but
it's tricky because, you know, carbs are our prime energy source. You know, we do need it, especially if you're a high level athlete, like in jiu-jitsu, where you are using so much energy. Like you are burning so much energy in jiu-jitsu. It's crazy. That to restrict that energy source can be tricky. It can be tricky.
It can.
Yeah.
And carbohydrates are protein sparing. So it's like you're not using protein for energy, you're using it to repair, you know, if you eat carbohydrates. And I think that if you eat things that like I said, one word, you know, foods like rice, oats, you know, potato, things like that, you're good to go. It's when you start eating things like, I mean, I'll eat bread once in a while, but that's the example of where you're going, I think, in my opinion, the wrong direction, where you're looking at the ingredient label and there's like, you know, 15 ingredients on there and you can't even pronounce maybe. So, you know, that's where you're going wrong. I think it's preservatives and prepared foods, I think, is where you make the mistake. But I think if you keep things pretty simple, you're usually pretty safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of eating carbs. I'm not giving up carbs ever again. I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah, I did it too way back in the day, and I'm like, why did I do this? It wasn't even necessary. Like I wasn't even trying to lose weight. Like it was when I was a white belt, blue belt, I was weighing like maybe 136 pounds.
Wow.
And I was like 2-3% body fat, and I was eating low carb all the time. I don't know why. I was just
why were you out? I mean, why? Lean, man. Ripped. Yeah, I mean, that's usually why people don't eat carbs, because they're trying to lose weight, right? They think that carbs make them fat. Carbs don't make you fat. Calories make you fat.
Yeah.
I mean, the calories makes you fat, you know, so it doesn't matter. You know, it's like I think I was listening to I don't know if you ever listened to Joe DeFranco's podcast, the Industrial Strength Show. Yeah, he did a good episode. It was probably just like 3 or 4 episodes back, but he talked about his diet, and he made a point that he was like, it's like, as long as it's within your caloric deficit, you know, to get to lean out or whatever, you can eat whatever you want as far as like the micronutrient breakdown. You know, you can have you can eat higher carbs and moderate protein and, you know, low fat or any kind of reversal, whatever works for you, as long as it's within those calories. And that made a lot of sense to me. And that's really, I think, the reality of it. It's calories in, calories out.
Yeah. It's like this, if it fits your macros type of mentality a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what makes you feel the best too. I mean, I feel good the way I eat. You know, I eat a lot of mainly vegetables and protein, and I eat some white rice, and I feel good. I eat some eggs, you know, and you know, it's some oatmeal, and I'll throw in some fruit like berries and stuff like that into it, maybe an apple or banana here or there. But I feel good like that. But I can tell the difference when I eat junk or when I, you know, eat the wrong foods.
Yeah, I will say that with combat athletes, BJJ, stuff like that, have run into a lot of guys, friends, and people that I've helped that they tend to undereat, man. Like I don't know what it is, but they tend to, like I had this one guy that I was helping, and he had a lot of chronic injuries, a lot of chronic pain and stuff like that. And I went with him, went over with him his food, and he was eating nothing. Like he was eating like, I don't remember. He was like eating like 2 meals a day. And after he got back home from jiu-jitsu, he would eat some Doritos and smoke a little bit, and that's it. Like, and that was his, like, oatmeals in the morning, a salad for lunch, and then that, because he was afraid of gaining weight. And I'm like, no. I had him track his for him. I had him track his calories because I wanted him to see that he could eat more and be able to still maintain the weight and feel a lot better.
Right. He needed a lot more.
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing that he needed for him specifically. That was the biggest thing that he needed to help him with his chronic pain. He told me, Gio, the biggest takeaway from this is I can eat more. Like, I'm just happy that I can eat more and I'm not gaining weight. Oh my God. Like he's like, I have no pain, blah, blah. It's not, that's great, but I can just eat more.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised the smoking didn't make him eat more.
I know, right?
he didn't like get the munchies and then eat, you know. But it's like, but again, it's a science. It's like, how many calories does it take to gain a pound of fat? 3,500 calories excess over your maintenance levels. So it's like, that's a lot of calories. I don't think I even eat 3,500 calories in a day. I doubt I do. I probably eat about 2,000 or 2,500. You know, that's about what I eat. You know, but it's amazing what people will do. But but it's also amazing too that when you actually learn how to eat correctly, how much you do feel better, or you can, you know, function better or accomplish a lot more.
And how much freedom you have. Like, you think it's going to be more restrictive, but it's free. It's freeing, really.
Yeah, really, it is. Yeah, I mean I mean, I guess it depends on who you talk to and what you're doing. But
yeah, I guess, right? Mentality.
Like that picture of me from like, what is it, 2008 on my Instagram that I put up a couple weeks ago. Dude, I lived on egg whites, oatmeal, tilapia, chicken breast, green beans, a half a cup of brown rice a day, and then some protein shakes. And that's all I ate for 6 months. And man, that was horrible. It was horrible. I won't eat like that ever again in my life. There's no way.
How long did you do bodybuilding for?
I did one show. I lifted weights. I basically builded, you know, whatever you want to call it, since I was 17, off and on through my whole life. And at that point, I started lifting weights when I was 17. I lifted until I was about 21. I got up to I went from 150 to 205 pounds. And I got pretty strong at that age at like 20, 21. I was pretty decently strong. And then I stopped. I must have done, I used to be the kind of guy that if I get interested in something, I throw myself into it. I do it like crazy, right? But I used to be the kind of guy where I can only do one kind of thing at a time. Like, you know, I was either working out or I was doing martial arts or I was doing something, you know, it was only one thing, totally focused on this one thing. And then as I got older, I got married and I had my first daughter, and I stopped doing martial arts a little bit after that. Because at the time I was doing traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and I was actually traveling 3 hours every Monday to go train with my teacher in Sonora. Yeah, I did that for years. I did it for I did that particular martial art for 18 years total, with a break in it, and that was the first part of the break. But up until that point, I had trained, I want to say 8 years in it at that point. And then we had our first daughter, and I put the brakes on all that because it was just like you said, it's like you have a newborn, she's got her days and nights mixed up. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm barely getting any sleep, and I got to prioritize this. So the martial arts sort of fell to the side for a while, and I got back into lifting weights and bodybuilding or whatever. And I worked out. And I did that between 30 and 36. And then 36 is when I decided I'm going to do a bodybuilding contest. I'm like, why else am I doing all this? Right. So I met somebody who owned the Max Muscle in Capitola, and named Jeff, and he taught me in doing the San Jose, and he and his wife Sarah coached me for it. And it was a long 6 months of 2 hours of cardio a day. I did an hour when I got up. I went to work. I had this really high pressure job, and I would come home and I would lift weights for an hour and a half at the gym down the street from my house at the Golds. And then I would go home and I'd do another hour of cardio on the treadmill. And I actually destroyed a treadmill during this process in my garage. I did. I'm serious. I burned out the motor on the treadmill. And
that's crazy.
Brand new treadmill, a cheap one, but it was still brand new. And I would just sit there and watch bodybuilding DVDs on this little player to keep me motivated. To watch Ronnie Coleman and all these freaks. And he happened to actually, he was the guest poser at the contest I did, which was interesting to actually meet him in person. Yeah, he was,
that's cool,
freaking big.
Yeah, one of the best.
And actually the Golds where I trained is right by my house. Actually, still, it's a different name now, but Ronnie Homboyd used to train a lot of pros out of that gym. You'd see, I saw Phil Heath one day, stood next to him at the dumbbell rack, and looked at him, looked at me, and just went home. And then I saw Jay Cutler. I saw a bunch of these guys. They were just
awesome.
Oh, mammoths. But anyway, I digress. So I did this contest, and I did it naturally, which was crazy in the first place that I went to the San Jose naturally. But I came in 15th to 15th in my division, and but I looked at it like, well, it's still cool because when I started the process, I was 240 pounds fat.
Mm-hmm.
I ended at 166, like I did in the picture. So I was like, okay, I still accomplished something. I still did something I never thought I'd ever be able to do. And it was, like I said, an accomplishment for me. Then I
Yeah.
was going to do one in October because Jeff and some other people who I spoke to at the contest said, yeah, you probably need like 3 more months. So I was like, maybe I'll do the one in October, the San Francisco. But, family pressures and other stuff was just like, we're done with this. This is not cool. You got to take a break. So I did. And there's more to the story that I don't want to put out publicly, but about my reasons why I stopped bodybuilding. But yeah, I did that for a while. And then I got back into martial arts. And then that was about the point where I started going back to the same art, traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu. But that was also about the same point in my life where I was able to do more than one thing, where I decided, because I got to go back a little bit farther. When I stopped bodybuilding, I started powerlifting. And when I started powerlifting, I went right back up to 240, huge, very strong, but very fat. And there's pictures of me on my Instagram in that condition too. And then the doctor told me, you got to lose weight, it's not healthy, etc. That's what got me on the paleo kick. There were I had some other, well, you would appreciate this. I had like tendonitis so bad that I couldn't unrack 135 to bench or on squat. Yeah, elbows. Yep. And on squat days, it was so much pain on my elbows that I would actually be in the corner of the gym, like leaning down on top of a weight tree, feeling like I wanted to cry. It hurt so bad. And so I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just, I'm 41 years old. I'm destroying myself. I've been basically lifting heavy all these years. And it was too late in my life to want to do some stupid shit like this. And, when I was doing geared powerlifting, which for all of you out there listening, it doesn't mean steroids. It means you're wearing a squat suit or you're wearing a bench shirt. And so you're actually lifting a lot more freaking weight than your joints are really able to take on, without doing exercises that now I know now that I didn't know then, such as doing a lot of high rep band work and things like that will increase the connective tissue strength, but I didn't know that back then. So I basically destroyed my joints to a point where I really, like I said, I couldn't unwrap 135. Squatting was just like agonizing. And so I stopped. I couldn't do a pull-up, anything. But anyway, so then I went on the paleo diet because I had to lose all this weight. So I did. I went from 240 to like 180 in like 6 months. And I felt a lot better, but that's also when I got back into martial arts and I was still doing the traditional stuff. But that's also when I found a way to get myself to a point where I could worry about my physical fitness and do another interest and work out at the same time and sort of blend them together. So that was like, for me, was like the turning point of my life as far as that goes. And now I'm still there. Now I'm at the point where I've been doing BJJ for almost 8 years. I love it. I'm never going to stop. I'm going to do it till I die. And, but I also have a love for the iron. I still love to lift weights. And I have a home gym and I work out at home.
That's awesome.
And, but it's still the same thing where I still like, during the pandemic, perfect example, during the pandemic, when I wasn't training BJJ because I couldn't, I got really into lifting weights again. I got really into like powerlifting almost. And, I got a lot of some of my strength back up and I was, deadlifting over 4 plates again and squatting 3 plates again and do all these things I hadn't done in a while. That I know are not impressive numbers for all of you out there, but for me, at 49 and being drug free and weighing 168 pounds, they were impressive for me. And it was an accomplishment for myself.
Those are impressive. Yeah.
So, but the point is, I still have that love for wanting to work out. I still want to, be able to blend all those things in my life and do all these things that I want to do. And I understand you can't serve 2 masters, and I understand you have to, consolidate your expectations of what you can achieve while you're doing all these things. But I still want to be able to perform to the best of my ability, given my situation. But that's where I basically am at this time, and that's why I thought the whole recovery tracking thing was really interesting to me. But that goes into the next question. The pros and cons of powerlifting. This post you put up, we have to talk about the post.
No, yeah, I basically put that, that there are pros and cons to powerlifting for combat athletes, right? And there are. But it's more, the pros are more not to train for the sport of powerlifting, but to train with certain powerlifting type principles in your training. And going back to what you said, like that love for both, I feel the same things a lot of time. I grew up with with one brother that used to love martial arts, used to love conditioning type stuff, and the other brother used to love lifting weights, bodybuilding like crazy. He was, 200 and something pounds and 4% body fat.
Just jacked.
He might have,
No, whatever.
I don't judge, but yeah.
That's
but
right.
still, like I grew up with both sides of it, so I fell in love with both sides as well. And yeah, it's a tricky balance between both, and I feel like you talk to people, like, for example, you look through Facebook or through the internet, and people ask, how can I get stronger for BJJ or for combat sports? And people say, oh, just get 5-3-1, or just get on 5x5 and stronger lifts, and then just go for it. Do that only. And sort of, but not really. Like, there's more to it than that, have you heard of Juggernaut Chad Wesley's?
Absolutely, yeah. I have watched this YouTube channel a lot. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And he talks about it too in one of his channels, like when he talks about heavy lifting for jiu-jitsu, that it's not necessary to go all the way up there. It's not necessarily to focus just on max strength. We have different type of strengths that we have to focus on in jiu-jitsu or in combat sports. We have explosive strength, we got strength endurance, and we got max strength as well that we got to think about. But the thing is, we can use the principles of RPE, we can use those principles of getting the big three lifts, which are bench, squat, and deadlift, into your programming and focusing those as your primary lifts, like they do in powerlifting. But it's not necessary to constantly be maxing out at an RP 9-10 at 1 rep max or a 3 rep max or even a 5 rep max, constantly doing that week by week or training session by training session, like some people do,
Right.
You can definitely work at a sub-maximal or effort training level between 70 and 80-85% of your 1 rep max. You can train there and build significant amount of strength. Like talking about what you've talked about, like there were some times where I could only train once or twice a week during certain seasons of my life. And there were times that I could also only train at 60 to 70 to sometimes 80% of my one rep max. And that's where I've gained the most strength, when I was working those parameters.
Right.
Not when I was shooting for that 1 rep, 3 rep max at a RP 9, RP 10.
Right.
And that's the idea there. Like, we think that we have to train like a power lifter because strength is important. And I've had guys come to me and ask me, like, Gio, like, man, I start rolling and I feel good, and then all of a sudden I just gas out, and I do 1 or 2 explosive movements and I'm done. And I'm like, well, what do you think you need to get better at? I need to get stronger. Well, that's not necessarily a strength issue right there. That's actually more of an endurance issue right there that's going on there. Yes, you could get stronger. So when you lift that other guy that's 160 pounds that one time, it won't gas you out because you're not used to lifting that weight. Yeah. But once you get to that point where you can lift the other person up comfortably a few times, then it's more about endurance, right? About alactic endurance, lactic endurance, aerobic endurance, being able to work those energy systems and tolerate all those things. And that's where that combination comes in. Right.
And wouldn't you also say that there's also different types of strength? I mean, I say there's I like to use the term grappling strength. It's like, it's like isometric strength. It's like boa constrictor strength, where it's just different. It's like, even Chad said that on his, he was saying, he was talking to, I don't remember the name of the person he was talking about, but somebody told him, like, well, you're really strong. You must have been able to really handle this guy. And he's like, no, he's like, I'm strong with a barbell, but this guy's strong at moving bodies. Yeah. It's just different. Right. Yeah. And you have the isometric strength of being able to hold somebody, like, having wedges and holding somebody and with pressure and so forth in your body. And even the part 2 where people say, oh, I need to get stronger because I gas out. Well, what does that also do? That also means, are you training in a way like a bodybuilder where you're going to start gaining a bunch of body mass? Well, guess what? You're going to get gassed out too, because all that body mass needs oxygen. So you gas out quicker. So I don't know if you'd agree with those statements, but I
No,
don't know.
totally. Yeah, totally. I agree with that. Like, and you look at some of the top guys in jiu-jitsu at some of the maybe the lower weight classes and stuff like that. You look at the Meow brothers or something like that. You look at Marcelo Garcia. Marcelo doesn't do any type of strength and conditioning.
No, he's a freak. Yeah.
But yeah, he's a freak. I'm sure I've never trained against him, but I'm sure if I went up against him and he did that, he gripped me, it would feel like a boa constrictor type of grip, and he never does anything like any strength training. But he's constantly moving on the mat, constantly using his strength and training in that way, you know? So like you said, yeah, I totally agree. Like I believe it's more about, again, looking at the individual and seeing what their weak points are. Because I think sometimes strength coaches, we tend to think, well, we just got to get the guy stronger, and that's going to help him. If I get him to PR on his squat, then he's gonna do good in this or that. And it's not so much about that. It's more about, what are his weak points? Is strength one of his weak points? Great, let's work on that. If not, then let's focus a little bit more on the other aspects that we got to work on. You know, is it if it is strength, is it max strength? Is it isometric strength? Is it explosive? All those different things. You know, is it strength, speed, things like that. So yeah, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, as an endurance, is it? Yeah, I mean, even I think part of the isometric idea is also endurance. I would think that, you know, your ability to hold the contraction for, you know, long extended periods, like with your legs. Maybe that's when you're closed guard, and or you have a track triangle over their shoulder and you're holding them, you know, or a top, you know, like I was doing it this morning, where you have a closed guard and you just bring it over the top of the shoulder, so it's just higher up.
Yeah, the higher,
you know? But you're using, basically squeezing your knees and you're holding an isometric contraction. You know, you're not like trying to blow yourself out, but you know, it's still there. So I sort of feel like, sometimes I sort of feel like, in that sense, grappling itself is sort of strength training, and to some degrees. I mean, depending, it's just, you're building a different type of strength. That goes back to the whole other part about that I said about grappling strength. But yeah, I mean, those are good points. And even go back to even what you said earlier, though, not to cut you off, but you made a point earlier about getting stronger by using submaximal weights. That's basically the dynamic effort method. You know, if you look at the Russian conjugate method, you know, they're saying the Russians said they get stronger by training at submaximal loads, you know, 50 to 80% of the 1 rep max. So that makes a lot of sense too. I mean, I think that there really is there's a give and take. There's like a real balance you have to find. And I would think that too, that as you get older, that I think it's okay to do the heavier lifting here and there, but I think it should be more infrequent. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta to a certain point consider your joints and see how your body's feeling, right? I have seen guys that train fairly heavy at a higher age, right? And heavy training is good for the body. It's not that it isn't. And in fact, as you get older, you should continue to do it, because it does help with bone density. It helps with the soft tissue integrity. It helps to maintain muscle mass. It is good. But yeah, you might have to adjust a little bit as you get older, considering how your recovery is doing.
Right.
Like right now, like I don't do it, right? But I could go out and party until 5 a.m. today, and then tomorrow go and train, and it'll be shit. I'll probably get injured. It'll just be a horrible session, you know?
Right.
But if I did that when I was 18, 19, 20, my body would be like, oh, whatever, you're good to go.
Yeah, you don't care.
It's still taxing on the body, but your body just hides it better. Let's say that, you know?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's something you got to consider as you're getting older.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's like, you know, when you and I were talking over Instagram, and I was bouncing these ideas in my head, and I'm thinking, you know, it's still okay to like go for a 3 or 5 rep max, but maybe not do it every week. Maybe do it like, you know, every other week or every third week. You actually try to go that heavy, and then you give yourself some time to recover, because you have all the other things in your life that call upon your recovery ability. And maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe you have to rotate more of that and do more higher rep stuff, and, or just not pound yourself into the ground every time you work out. Be a little stronger, smarter about it. So does that go ahead?
No, and you'll feel like I want to do more, but as you get used to it, you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. I'm still getting my results. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all how you program it. It just depends on you, your recovery, and how your life is, and it's going to shift here and there little by little.
Yeah, I feel it. When I do, in the past, I've always said it that when I don't strength train, I actually feel like my jiu-jitsu is sort of better, because I don't know, I just don't feel as tight and smashed up, and I probably what it is the recovery. It's the fact that I don't have this other thing pulling on me to recover, but I don't care, because I still enjoy doing it. That's why I continue to do it. And I think it actually is good for my jiu-jitsu and just my life in general. I think you should just be physically fit and be harder to kill, basically, but
strength training and aerobic training in some way, shape, or form are essential throughout life, period. They are. Yeah. It's just, it might vary based on what you're doing at that moment in life, like training more jiu-jitsu, but they are essential throughout life.
They are, but they but then there's also, but like you said, there's that balance. It's like, what you have to find that balance for yourself, where you get the effect, but you don't overcompensate. Like I followed a routine I got a couple weeks ago, and I did it to the letter, and it was a great workout. But the next day I was rolling with a friend of mine in the academy, and he's like, "You worked out yesterday, didn't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I can tell, because you're not 100% today. You're not yourself." And I was like, "See," I was like, "There it is." He's like, because I walked in there feeling a little bit like, a little bit run down, not too bad, but I could just feel that fog. And that's probably what it was. And so there's that thing where it's like, then I went back to the workout and I looked at it again, and I'm like, okay, how can I trim this down to still get the effect, but not feel smashed? And so I guess that's something I wanted to bounce off you. I sort of feel like maybe there's some reality to that, where it's like, how do you find that? I guess you have to do it by trial and error, but it's like finding that point where it's like you get the effect you want, but you can recover from it,
Yeah, like you said, trial and error, really. A lot of times, like, you got to find your I think what's his name, Mike Isatal, he says it really well. I think that's his name. He does a Renaissance periodization. I might have butchered his name right now.
Okay.
But he talked about the minimal effective dosage and the maximal recoverable dosage. I believe those are his two terms. And it's basically that, like, you got to experiment with it a little bit, find your minimal effective dosage, and then you work from there up to your maximal recoverable dosage. And then once you get there, you sort of, maybe deload or come back down and build back up, like that. And you do that, your periodization that way, right? And I think it's that, man. I think it's just playing around with it and seeing what works for you. Like, looking at a workout that you have, and if you feel like you're under recovered or overtrained, like, maybe tweaking one variable at a time and seeing what helps, I wouldn't tweak everything at one time. I also wouldn't do it too soon. Like, if it's a novel stimulus or a brand new workout, like, I wouldn't switch too much too soon. But I would definitely, like you did it perfect. Like what you said, I looked at it, fucked. Maybe I should switch one or two things here,
Yeah, take a little bit of volume off, whatever. I don't know.
See what happens.
That's the first thing I thought of, was like, okay, where can I trim the volume? What can I do to make this more manageable, still get the effect, but keep going? But well, what's your opinion on how people say there's no such thing as overtraining? I think that's such a load of bullshit.
I think that's BS. I think so. There's a couple of things here. There's overreaching, which is what we do normally, right? We overreach, compensate, and that's how our training goes, right? And then there is overtraining syndrome, where you go to a point where you overtrain so much that it just goes downhill. But that in and of itself, that takes at least a month, two, maybe more, for that to truly happen, for you to get to that point of overtraining syndrome. But it can happen, rhabdomyolysis. I destroy that word as well. But rhabdo, where people just tear apart their body, and their muscles and stuff like that. It's a real thing. It just takes a lot for you to get to that point, but it is possible for it to happen. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Well, you I think it was you had on your Instagram. I think there was a video you were talking about that. You were studying to do. You were a graphic artist, I believe, and
Yeah.
you were studying. You were studying for what you do now, and you were training, and you were working out, and you were sleeping like how many was it? Like 2 hours a night or something?
3 hours a night.
3 hours a night. Yeah.
I was
Tell that
very
story. Tell that
stupid.
story. Tell that story.
I
I think
was
it's
very,
interesting.
I was very stupid. I was, I studied graphic design in order to be able to continue studying and working, make some money on the side as I continue studying. So I was training jiu-jitsu probably 5-6 days a week. And then I was weightlifting probably 4 or 5 days a week. I was doing, I think at that point, have you ever heard of Chris Getting?
No.
Yeah. So he's on bodybuilding.com.
Mm-hmm.
He's this bodybuilding.com. Like he's one of the first ones that made these really big workouts that you follow on bodybuilding.com. He's the one that made that trend.
Okay.
So he had this workout on there. It was like a 5-day-a-week workout, which was this crazy amount of volume, like on legs. Like he recorded himself doing the workout and he was like vomiting as he was doing the workouts. And so I was following that workout and doing jiu-jitsu like 5-6 days a week, plus studying for physical therapy. I had just finished exercise science and starting in physical therapy. So I was in that transition. And I was doing graphic design work as well. So I basically had no life and had no sleep. Like I was just like not sleeping at all. And my body little by little just started like falling apart. Like it was recurring back injuries, recurring shoulder injuries, neck injuries. My back was the worst. I kept on trying to train through it. And I kept on getting stuck. And it would get tweaked and I would get stuck in a position. I would go to somebody and they would help me out. I went to a chiro, to massage therapist, a doctor. One doctor told me, "You're not an ant. You're not supposed to be lifting twice your body weight," or something like that. My BJJ instructor back then, BD, to help me out, he's like, "You're not going to roll with any of the heavy guys anymore." So he had me rolling with the only 2 other people that were my weight in that school at the time.
Wow.
Which were the 2 girls, which one of them was his wife, and they were awesome. They were great. Yeah. But every time I tried to roll with somebody heavier, he's like, "No, stop, get back over there." And everybody was just making fun of me, and I got to a point where I tweaked my back warming up one time, and I actually didn't know what to do for it. So I left the gym hanging on to the person that was with me at the time. I didn't want to show anybody. So I was like walking out like, "I'm good. All right, I'll see you guys later." And I was like, and I got out, I could barely walk. And they were like, "You need to go to the emergency room because you're not doing well." So I went to the emergency room. They did an x-ray. My back was like as straight as a rod in my lower back. The curve was not there because the muscles were so spasmed up.
Right.
And I basically was stuck in a wheelchair for 3 days because I just couldn't bear the weight of walking,
Wow.
And then after that, it was like maybe another month or 2 where I would walk maybe 500 feet at most, and I would have to take a break, because it was just so exhausting. Rolling, I was okay because I was laying down. I wouldn't stand up during rolling,
right.
But I would have to go really slow. But after that, I was like, no, this is BS. Like I was in my first semester of DPT, of the doctorate of physical therapy. I was like, this is stupid. I'm studying physical therapy and I'm getting injured like this. This is ridiculous. This is wrong. So that's when I started diving deeper, because even in PT school, a lot of the stuff that they teach you is to get you prepared to pass the test. Okay. And the test is not necessarily up to date with the latest research. It's just impossible for it to be, so even in school, like what I was learning, a lot of the stuff was not enough to help me. So I had to start asking other people in the field and searching on my own, asking other people what was going on. And they were the ones that would taught me about training load and recovery and all these things. And, what was happening with my muscles and everything and blah, blah. And yeah, but it was just reinventing everything. I literally started deadlifting again. I had avoided deadlifting for a while because of the reoccurring back injuries for like a year or two.
Right.
I started deadlifting again with a trap bar with 10 pounds on each side. And that's where
Wow.
I started. I started squatting with a barbell, just the barbell, and that was it, and I started from scratch right there. And it took me like 2 years to build up to a point where it was a significant amount of weight, but I had to just start from scratch. You just had to.
Nice. Well, I got two things that popped in my head during this conversation. Is I remember you said in the beginning of the conversation that your back and your shoulder bothered you.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
do you think those are reoccurring injuries or something that followed you from that time period in your life?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. It's funny how you do things like that. You like how we all do things in our life at one point. We think, oh, no, it's not that big of a deal, but it follows you forever,
Mhm.
like physical things like that. Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's just learning how to manage it. Like I
yeah.
will always have some discomfort in my shoulder and in my
Hmm.
back. That's just
Hmm.
part of it.
Hmm.
But if I don't train and stay active, it
Hmm.
gets worse. If I
Right.
train and stay active, it helps it so much. Like when my back is bothering me, I
Hmm.
go and deadlift and it feels
Hmm.
better. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
weird.
like grease, what they call it, grease in the groove, or just like stimulating that movement. Really does work. I mean, you remember even talking about that in your post about when you did injure your back, you didn't just stop and go home and lay down with an ice pack. You actually did some motion and you moved and
Yeah.
it felt better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah.
worst thing you can do is just stop altogether.
Hmm.
Unless there's some real big red flags or something like
Right,
that,
right.
you have to go get some help. But if not, move what you can and yeah, try to
That's
get most out
yeah.
of it.
That's what I did with my knee actually today. I kept training a little bit. I did what I felt like was comfortable doing that didn't hurt, and I was able to slow a bit of roll and no pain or nothing. I was able to do all the situational training and no pain. And then I went home and I just I stretched a little bit and then I did some lunges and with body weight and didn't feel anything. And I was like, I'm good. It's just I just got to give it a couple days. I'll be fine.
Yeah, because your body,
Mhm,
if you tend to avoid it and
mhm,
not work it, your body is going to go into this state of defense where what
mhm,
happened with my back that one time that I
mhm.
didn't do all those things.
Right.
It'll just spasm everything up because it's saying
Mhm,
I need to protect that area. It's
mhm,
injured.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that's a lot harder to work out of in most
Nice.
cases. It's not always like that, but when
Mhm,
it comes to muscular skeletal things,
mhm.
that's going to happen a lot of the time. So
That's
you
really
got to be
interesting.
careful with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Another thing I wanted to ask you, because you brought it up. Now, I have two trap bars, and I
Mhm.
like the trap bar deadlift. As a PT, what's your opinion of that tool compared to like a straight bar?
Whatever. I mean, if you're a powerlifter, then yeah, you're gonna eventually have to work with the straight bar,
But I'm not
right?
a powerlifter anymore,
But
so yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
you could do whatever feels comfortable for you,
Okay.
man. Whatever you can
Mm-hmm.
consistently do. That's my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I have my best friend. He's a powerlifter. He
Mm-hmm.
fucking hates the trap bar with a
Mm-hmm.
passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I mean, for me, it's just whatever's gonna be the best for you to be able to load,
Right.
and progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. He's an older gentleman out of Texas. He's a big power lifter. He's the guy who wrote what was that book? Starting Strength.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mike something.
I think so. Here, I'm gonna look it up, man. I'm gonna pull my
Yeah.
phone out because it's bugging me, and it's gonna drive me crazy.
Mark Ripito.
Yeah,
Yeah. Why
Sam Mark
couldn't? Yeah.
Ripito. Yeah, he hates the trap bar.
Yeah.
He hates
Mhm.
it. I remember we put a video out. He has it in his trash can, but he bought one. He had one in his gym, so I don't know. It's just.
I don't know. I think there's a place for it.
Mhm.
I mean, the new physical preparedness test for the military or the
Mhm.
army is with a trap bar, deadlift
Trap
with a
bar.
trap bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting. I don't know.
it just depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's something different. I don't know. I I I got it because I just thought it'd be fun. And it was like something different, and I'm sick of the same old, same old. But I don't know. I some people think that it's more quad dominant. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's true, but I mean,
Yeah, it just changed the mechanics a little bit,
mhm,
right? It
mhm,
does.
yeah,
And as long as you compensate for that, or sorry, you make up for that with
mhm,
some of your other exercises,
mhm,
you'll be good.
yeah, yeah. The one thing the rule of thumb I use, I got this from Joe DeFranco too, is that if he likes trap bar deadlifts, And he programs them for a lot of athletes, football players, and so forth that he coaches. But what he'll do, because he says it's a quad dominant exercise, more quad than a regular straight bar. So he will always program like a 45 degree hyperextension or some type of posterior chain movement after is like, a supplemental exercise after he does that lift. So I try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I just want to get your opinion on it as a PT. I thought it was an interesting question
Yeah.
to find out as you brought it up. So the other thing we wanted to talk about was daily undulated periodization training. Because we had talked about conjugate a little bit on our messages, and you brought up this daily undulated periodization training, and I can't speak today. But I was wondering if you could, give us a little rundown on that.
Yeah, it's another type of concurrent training, sort of like the conjugate, right? So conjugate is a type of concurrent. Really, like Louis Simmons and Westside were the ones that made the conjugate method popular, which is like an actual type of programming. But conjugate periodization is more of just another type of concurrent type of training. And daily undulated periodization is just very similar. It's another type of concurrent training. You're trying to work different goals or different variables at the same time throughout the week, concurrently. So you're always prepared in a way. So for example, in daily undulated periodization, you might have a strength day where you're working at 80% of your max. Then you might have a power day, or some people call it a recovery day. Some people call it a technique day. I can't think right now. A technique day. And there you're working a lot lower. You're working 50-60%, and you're working on technique. You're working a little bit of speed, sort of like the dynamic effort days.
I was thinking the same thing. You said that. Yeah. And
then the other day is more maybe of a strength endurance or hypertrophy type of day, where you're working between 70 and 80%, and you're sort of undulating between those different things. And the way you do with daily undulated periodization is a 3-day-a-week workout. And you're going to have your 3 lifts, your bench, your squat, and your deadlift. And one day you might train strength for bench, hypertrophy for squat, and then technique or power, whatever you want to call it, for deadlift, and then you just keep on switching those around a little bit,
Okay.
And that's basically the way you do it. Like, that's how I'm training right now. But for example, I only deadlift twice a week, and I'm doing because I'm focusing mainly on my squat and my bench. I feel like at this point, since I'm focusing more on building back into competition for jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, I want to only focus on 2 big lifts at a time. And because of my shoulder issue or my shoulder injury, that I avoided it for so long, for so many years dealing with it, it's a lot weaker at this point than my low back. So I definitely want to focus on that area a little bit more, hence why I'm focusing more on bench in that point. So yeah, I do the squat and the bench 3 times a week, but I'm only deadlifting twice a week, and it's more hypertrophy and technique based,
Okay.
Or speed based, however you want to put it, and it works great. I'm in a general physical preparedness type state right now, so I'm just building foundational all around strength. And as I get closer to maybe competing, I would switch it, maybe even drop it down to strength training twice a week only, or something like that. It's just going to depend on how my body recovers at that point, but I would still keep the same method.
Okay. Do you do any like assistance work besides those three methods? Or movements? Okay.
Yeah. So I do assistance work. I like doing my my more, I guess you could say, bodybuilding type work on the same hypertrophy day or strength endurance day. And then I like using, and it's just my personal way of doing it. You look online, you look at different people that talk about this, they all do it differently. I like doing my more like maybe accessory strength work, or maybe weak points, areas that I need to work on my actual strength day. And then my technique day, I might work a little bit more explosive movements, a little bit more conditioning type work, or recovery type work at that day as well. It just depends. That varies a little bit. That day for me right now is a little bit more open, and I switch it up a little bit. And I don't do my own periodization or my own programming myself.
Okay.
So I actually have, I like you, like we talked about, I'm very hard-headed, so I'm gonna want to go harder. I'm gonna want to go a lot tougher. So I decided I need somebody to rein me in. So I worked together with a friend of mine as a coach, and we made a little bit of a deal that I would help him out with some of his PT stuff, and help some of his athletes out, and he would help me out as well to rein
There
me
you
in
go.
that sense as
There
well.
you go.
So yeah, so it was good in that sense, because I need that, because like we talked about, like I will eventually, it says an RP 6 or an RP 7, and I'm like, I feel like going an RP 8 or 9 today, and I'll want to push it, and
Right.
I'm not thinking about what's going on later. It's easier for me to do it for other people, but when
Right.
it comes to myself,
But that's the way it always is, right?
yeah.
It's like do you know who Eugene Sosek is?
No.
Eugene Sosek, he's the BJJ physical therapist, and he's
Oh,
the guy.
yeah.
I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He's a really cool guy, and but he always says, like when it comes to injuries, he's like, he tells people, don't train, don't do this, don't do that. But he's like, but I don't really do any of that myself. Like I'm the guy who's like taping up my hand and sticking it in my belt and everything else. So it's like, it's like do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But it's I gotta find a deal like that. I gotta find something where I can find some kind of trainer or somebody who knows what they're doing with like jiu-jitsu and like grappling, and who I can trade some kind of service for to like get workouts or something. I gotta figure something out.
Yeah, just figure out like a deal, like, hey, I'll help you with some of your management things, or
whatever.
I'll post for you.
Do something. Yeah.
But you said you're doing a conjugate method right now, or
I have been for a while. Well, see, like that's the thing. Like you even brought it up earlier, was 5-3-1. Like during the pandemic, I started the pandemic bodybuilding again, basically. And I got bored with that really freaking fast. And I was like, there was a reason why I don't do this anymore, because it sucks and I hate it. So I'm not going to do this. And so I was just playing around with different ways I wanted to train. But then I was like, I've never really given the 5-3-1 method a real shot. So I did, and it worked really well.
It is good.
It's a very good program. And Jim Wendler, he's freaking knows what he's talking about. He's got it. And I bought one of his books. It was I bought the basic 5-3-1, and I bought on my post. I'm sorry, guys, just hang on 1 second. It's 5-3-1 Forever, and it's a really good book. There's a ton of templates in it, really good information. But
a lot of guys use I think the Joker method template or whatever. Yeah, for jiu-jitsu. I've heard a lot of guys saying that. I personally have never done it, but that's what I've heard a few people say.
Yeah, I like the Joker. I played around for a little bit, but I'm gonna go back to think about that. I'm gonna go back and read that again. But yeah, I would actually like to see what he would come up with if he actually went to him and said, Jim, BJJ athlete, design a program, and see what he came up with. Because his ideas are pretty cool. And I like how he incorporates like a weighted vest and other movements along with it on off days, and how he plays with the percentages, and like basically working off of an 80 to 90% training max of your actual max. So you're not continually smashing yourself, and you can like go do the workout and walk around for like, I still have more in the tank. And that was the point, right? Yeah. So, but the basic 5-3-1 program, if you're not doing like, but that's the thing, is like, you're not doing the jiu-jitsu. Again, you're not serving two masters, right? So when I was able to put everything into the 5-3-1 program, it worked freaking great. And then I got stronger and everything. Then I went back to jiu-jitsu, and I started training like I used to, where it was like multiple days a week, and it went right down again. Yeah. So it's just the expectation. But then again, is it like, what's relative strong? I mean, as far as grappling, I mean, I think it's probably it's not that high. So if you can lift some relatively decent weight, 3+ plates on a deadlift, and you can squat a couple plates for reps, and and things like that, I think you're doing okay for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, at that point, I would say your strength training is more about injury prevention, maintenance of strength, so you can continue training. But again, if jiu-jitsu is your focus, if you want to get stronger, then you're going to have to probably, if you want to focus on building a whole bunch of strength or getting a whole bunch of muscle, you might have to back off a little bit on jiu-jitsu.
You absolutely have to. You absolutely would have to. I firmly believe that now from my own experience, and that, or you're going to have to use something else to augment your recovery.
Yeah.
And your ability to recover quicker or more frequently.
There's also, and then we all know there's one or two guys that are like freaks that they can just do both. But hey, there are genetic outliers, and we got to consider that, and it might not be that they're augmenting their recovery sometimes, right? It might just be, this guy's a genetic freak. Good for him. All right.
No, you're right. You're right.
He's doing both.
Yeah. There was a guy I knew that I went to high school with, and I ran into him when I was getting ready for that bodybuilding show, and he was a bodybuilder too at that time. And he, won the Contra Costa County, no problem, first place, but he's walking around with a 6-pack 365 days a year eating McDonald's.
Yeah. It's just
Ronnie Coleman, the same thing. If you ever go back and watch that documentary they put on Netflix about Ronnie Coleman, how he's talking about, I used to work at, I worked at this pizza place, and I was eating pizza every day, and I got tired of that. So I went to Burger King, and I got the burger and said, hey, you guys want some pizza? So I want some burgers, and they trade, but he'd be eating a bunch of Burger King, and he's still 6-pack, no problem.
Yeah. And so, we can't take the workouts, look at the workouts that those type of guys did or do, and then want to repeat it for ourselves, because those guys that are at the top in that way are truly, well, they're doing other stuff, right? But they're also genetic outliers in a way, and you got to consider that. It's not that you can't get to an incredible version of yourself where you're doing incredible things, right? We all have a lot of potential, but you got to consider that as well. You got to consider you.
I totally agree with that. I think that, it's like, I'm not taking it away from anybody. I mean, even if you're using that stuff, but you're still putting in the effort, more power to you,
and I've seen guys that use that stuff, and they don't put in the effort, and then they go in jiu-jitsu specifically, they go and compete, and they do crappy, they get injured or something like that, and they're like, man, why? I did this. Well, you didn't do the other stuff. You
didn't train.
You didn't train. Of course it's gonna happen,
But you're right. Yeah, those people, that there are the 1%ers, and those are usually the people that are top athletes in whatever sport there is, and whether PEDs and whatever's used, or it's not used, whatever, they're still the top of the sport for that reason. So you got to take that into account. Yeah. Well,
one last thing I just remembered now that I want to tell you before about recovery and everything. If you are at a good base level of strength, then one thing you could try to do, because I heard you talking in one of your podcasts, I'm the same way. I'm not big on aerobic conditioning or anything like that. I'm not. People ask me, "Are you a runner?" I'm like, "No, I just do some aerobic conditioning, but I don't run."
Right.
But if you have a good level of strength for jiu-jitsu, and you're having trouble with recovery, and your sleep is good, your nutrition is good, you're managing your training load pretty good, I would try to see if I can increase my aerobic capacity a little bit. Because aerobic capacity, your aerobic system drives your recovery. So if you have a better aerobic system, you're going to recover better. So if you have a good baseline aerobic system, it'll recover better. And there's a lot of different ways to train your aerobic system. You don't just have to run or do hits. It doesn't. It isn't just one of those two options. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So just so you know,
So aerobic conditioning,
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a crazy amount, man, but it helps. It helps with the recovery.
Do you have any just basic tips to give to start out?
I would say, for example, Joe Jamieson, again, he's like the big guy on aerobic conditioning for athletes. And for combat athletes and everything. And that book that I told you about,
I got that book. Yeah, I bought that. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
This one, the Ultimate MMA Conditioning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he talks about just that. And I would say probably just for jujitsu, adding in some days. He says like 4 days a week, but I think that's too much. But
Mhm.
adding in, well, it's not too much. It's just how are you going to fit it all in,
Okay.
Adding in at least 2 days to start off of maybe of tempo intervals.
Uh-huh.
It's a good way of doing it.
Okay.
You do a tempo interval where you're training at 130, 140 beats per minute, maybe a
Mhm.
little bit. And then you do that for 45 seconds. Then you do 45 seconds of a push-ups,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
a set, then you go back and do another aerobic interval, and build up your heart rate again, back up to 130,
Mhm.
140.
Mhm.
Then you do another 45 seconds of another exercise. It could be literally anything. Like I have my
Pull-ups or
guys
whatever.
do,
Yeah.
I have my guys do nothing too strenuous, but I have
Mhm.
them do like dead bugs. And then I have
Mhm.
them do
Mhm.
Russian twists,
Mhm. Mhm.
do some ab work. So you do 5 intervals back and forth like that. And it's a good
Mhm.
recovery session. It helps with your recovery in general,
Mhm.
but it's also working in your aerobic capacity a little bit,
Mhm. Would
In
you
that book,
good in
in
that
that
book?
book, he talks about that a little bit. And
Okay.
actually, Chad talks about it too in
Yeah.
one of his juggernaut videos.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. He showed
Yeah.
that where he was doing like they were doing the bike and they were doing some exercises in between. I'm gonna go back and watch that video actually and get some ideas off that. And
That
you
aerobic base is
yeah.
huge, man. It is.
And he would do that. I believe he would do that on his off days from the lifting.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was lifting, he was doing a push pull where he's squatting and pressing on one day and then doing a deadlift in a row on another
Mm-hmm.
day. And he was doing pull ups every day because he said really had to work on that every day he worked out. And then he would do the tempo interval type
Yeah.
training on the off days.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with
Yeah.
some shoulders and arms or whatever you feel like doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's some good info. And I'm pretty sure he bases it off of Joe's book too. I mean, Chad knows a crap load too, but
Mhm.
they all, I mean, it's the same stuff, the same information really.
Mhm.
So it's good. It's good
That's
stuff.
awesome stuff, man.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I got one more question for you.
Go for it.
So I like to draw a little bit, and I like superhero stuff because I'm a geek. And
Me too.
and I was wondering who's your favorite superhero?
Oh man, that's so hard. Uh, my true favorite is Batman, but I know everybody says Batman. My
A lot of
second,
people say Batman now. Yeah, but
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
but my second favorite, like comic book hero, and he's not necessarily a superhero,
Mhm.
Hellboy. I I
Really,
fuck I
that's unique.
I fucking I fucking love Hellboy. I love the comics. They're so
Okay.
beautifully drawn and everything. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna send you some of my art one day. It's not as good
All
as
right.
yours.
Okay.
I saw yours, but yeah, I'm gonna show you some of mine
I
too.
want to see it. I want to see it, but I'm going
Yeah,
to draw you a Hellboy because I've never drawn Hellboy in my life.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to draw you a Hellboy.
Nice.
I'm gonna hook you up with that because I have never done that before and that'd be fun. And I've always wanted to do something different. And I've got like 3 more Batmans I have to do.
Yeah, everybody loves Batman, and yeah,
Batman's
he's
best. I
great.
mean, Batman is actually my favorite, but
Yeah,
did you see the trailer for the new movie yet? The new
yeah, I
trailer that
saw
came
it.
out? Oh man, I was
Yeah,
really excited. That looks like a good
long.
film.
It looks like Long Halloween is the storyline
It
behind it, which
does.
is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
that and Ego. And
mhm.
yeah. And I actually saw the animated Long Halloween recently. It's really good. That's a really
Yeah,
good film. But I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, it's been a long time because of the pandemic and waiting for the new film to come out. But I think it's going to be a good. It's going to be a really good film. Really enjoyable.
yeah, yeah. I think it will be too. I
Yeah,
hope they
yeah.
do the Long Halloween justice. So
I think they
that's
will.
it's
Yeah,
one of my favorite Batman comics.
mine
So yeah.
too. Yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Did you see the Planet of the Apes films that Matt Reeves made?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the new ones. Yeah, yeah,
Freaking
they're
good
awesome.
films. I was
Yeah,
like when I heard he was directing the new Batman, I was like, oh, it'll be good.
yeah.
It'll be
The
really good.
second one is
Yeah.
my favorite out of the
Mhm.
three.
Yeah, mine too.
It's
Yeah.
an awesome movie. I mean,
Yeah.
I was crying. I'll admit it.
Hey, whatever. It's
Okay.
all good. I cry too. But I mean, it's like, yeah, it was I wasn't sure, like what else Matt Reeves did, and I didn't like look into it, but I knew that he made those films, and I was
Yeah,
like, okay, those films were legit, so this is gonna be good.
He's a really good storyteller. So yeah.
very good. And I like how they're doing the detective thing with Batman and this trilogy. So it ought to be really, really, really good films. So we'll see what happens. But Hellboy's on. I'm gonna get it done for you. Give me a couple of weeks to get it to you or so.
Yeah, no rush. Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. And so if people want to get a hold of you, they can find you on Instagram at geo.thefightersway.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Keep in touch. Obviously, we'll keep talking on Instagram and do other stuff. And we'll come back. We get to get some other stuff to talk about and have another episode.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I love that.
Man. All right. Awesome. All right. We have a good night. All right.
You too. Bye.
Bye.